Here's something that might surprise you. A person from New York City and a person from rural Texas are both native English speakers. They both grew up in the United States. And sometimes they can barely understand each other.
Wait, seriously? Like they can't have a conversation?
Not without some serious effort, Leo. And that's exactly what we're diving into today. Welcome to Speak Like a Native. I'm Maya.
And I'm Leo. And I gotta say, Maya, this is something I've been wondering about for a long time. I learned English from textbooks, from movies, from news anchors. Everyone sounds so clear. Then I visit the US and suddenly someone from Georgia says something that sounds like a completely different language.
Exactly. And that's the gap we're closing today. Because here's the truth. If you only learn from textbook English, you're only learning about 30% of what you'll actually hear. The other 70%, accents, regional expressions, cultural shortcuts. And today, we're going to help you decode 3 of the most common American accents you'll run into. The Southern drawl, the Boston accent, and Valley girl speech.
I'm already excited. But Maya, before we get into each one, why does this matter so much? I mean, can't I just ask someone to repeat themselves?
You can, and you should when you need to. But here's the problem. When you're in a conversation and someone says something you don't recognize, your brain has 2 choices. It can slow down and process the unfamiliar sounds, which takes time and makes you look confused. Or it can guess, which leads to misunderstandings. Either way, you lose confidence, and confidence is the single most important factor in sounding natural. When you understand the accent, you don't panic. You stay in the conversation. That's why this matters.
Okay, I'm sold. Let's start with the first one, Southern drawl.
Haha, all right. The Southern drawl. Now, imagine you're at a coffee shop in Nashville, Tennessee. The person in front of you turns around and says, "Well, hey there, how y'all doing today?"
I've heard y'all before, but everything else sounds so stretched out.
That's exactly the drawl part. The Southern drawl is famous for turning one-syllable words into 2 syllables. Let me give you an example. The word pen, in standard American English, it's just pen. Quick, short. In the Southern drawl, it becomes pi-yun. 2 syllables.
Piyun, like the writing tool, or like a place for animals?
Both. And that's where the confusion starts. The word pin, as in a sewing pin, also gets drawn out to pi-yun. So you have to listen to context. But here's the key thing about the Southern drawl. It's not just slow speech, it's a specific rhythm. Vowels get stretched, and the end of words often soften or disappear. For example, I'm going to becomes I'm gonna, which becomes I'm a bra, as in I'm a go to the store.
Wait, so isn't a grammar mistake? I always thought that was just lazy English.
That is a fantastic question. And this is the perfect example of why accents and dialects have their own grammar rules. In standard English, I'm going to go is correct. In Southern American English, I'm a go is the standard casual form. It's not lazy, it's a contraction that developed over generations. And if you use it in the South, you'll sound more natural, not less educated.
Okay, so if I'm in the South, I can say I'm a go to the store, and that's fine?
Absolutely. But here's a common mistake that learners from many backgrounds make. They try to imitate the drawl by speaking slowly, but they keep their native vowel sounds. For example, many Spanish speakers naturally hold vowels longer anyway. So when they try a Southern drawl, it can sound like a different accent entirely. And many Chinese speakers who come from a tonal language background often add a pitch change where the drawl shouldn't have one. The drawl is not tonal, it's a vowel stretch.
So it's not about pitch going up or down. It's just holding the vowel longer.
Exactly. Now let's test you. Say this sentence like you're from the South. I am going to take my car to the shop.
Okay, I'ma take my car to the shop.
Not bad, but let me show you two things to fix. First, car in the southern drawl often sounds like ca. The R at the end softens significantly, so car becomes ca. The second thing is rhythm. Don't rush through to the shop, drag it out a little. To the shop?
So, I'ma take my ca to the shop.
Now you're getting it. And you know what's funny? Many learners from Arabic speaking backgrounds actually have an advantage here. Because Arabic has a sound called the Q-fa in the back of the throat that helps with that southern R softening. But Italian speakers sometimes struggle because Italian keeps its Rs crisp and rolled. So if you're Italian learning English in a southern accent, you have to unlearn that crisp R.
I never thought about how your native language affects which English accents you can do.
It affects everything. And that brings us to our second accent, the Boston accent. Now, this one is going to blow your mind, Leo.
I've heard Boston accents in movies. It sounds so different.
Let me give you the most famous example, the phrase, park the car in Harvard Yard.
That sounds pretty normal to me.
Say it with a Boston accent. Ready? Park the car in Harvard Yard.
Wait, did you just drop every single R?
Every single one. That is the single most important rule of the Boston accent. R's are dropped when they come after a vowel. Car becomes ka. Park becomes pa. Harvard becomes Harvard. Yard becomes yad. The R disappears.
So, if you're from Boston, you just don't pronounce R's?
Not exactly. And this is the part that confuses most learners. Bostonians pronounce R's, but only when the R comes before a vowel. For example, in car, the R is dropped because it comes after a vowel and no vowel follows, but in car is like the car is blue, the R suddenly comes back. Because now there's a vowel after it. K is actually sounds like car is, the R reappears.
So you have to know when to drop it and when to bring it back?
Exactly. And this is why British English speakers actually have an advantage with Boston accent, because many British accents also drop R's in the same way. So if you learned British English and then try to understand a Bostonian, you're ahead of the game. But if you learned American English from a textbook, with those crisp, clear R's. Spanish speakers, for example, often have very strong R's. The Boston accent sounds like people are eating their words.
I can imagine. So, what about the rest of the sentence? Is there anything else?
Oh, plenty. The vowel sound in bath or glass changes. In standard American English, bath has a short A sound, like bath. In Boston, it can sound like both, with a longer, more open vowel. And the word awesome becomes wicked awesome.
Wicked awesome. Is wicked a bad thing?
Haha, not in Boston. Wicked is a positive intensifier. It means very. So wicked awesome means very awesome. Wicked cold means very cold. Wicked good means very good. If a Bostonian says, that pizza was wicked good, they're giving you the highest compliment.
Okay, so if I go to Boston, I should say wicked instead of very?
Yes, but don't overdo it. Use it naturally. One wicked per conversation is plenty. If you say wicked 3 times in one sentence, you'll sound like you're trying too hard.
Fair enough. So we've got the Southern drawl, the Boston accent. What's the third one? Valley Girl speech?
Valley Girl speech, also called the Valley accent, or California English, well, specifically the stereotypical Southern California young woman speech pattern. Now, this one is fascinating because it's not just about pronunciation, it's about intonation, filler words, and sentence structure.
I think I know this one. Isn't it like, oh my God, totally, like, whatever?
Exactly. But let's break it down properly. Valley Girl speech has 3 key features. First, uptalk. That's when your voice goes up at the end of a sentence, even if it's not a question. So instead of saying, I went to the store with a falling tone, it sounds like, I went to the store with a rising tone.
Wait, that's confusing. If it sounds like a question, how do people know you're not asking something?
Context. In casual conversation, especially among friends, uptalk signals that the speaker isn't finished talking. It keeps the conversation open. It says, I'm sharing and I want to know what you think. It's a social signal, not a grammatical one.
Okay, that makes more sense. What's the second feature?
The word like used as a filler, a quotation marker, and a hedge. In standard English, like is a comparison word, right? This tastes like chicken. In Valley Girl speech, like becomes a verbal pause. I was like really tired. Or it introduces a quote, and she was like, no way. Or it softens a statement. It's like kind of far.
So, like, is everywhere.
It is. And here's the surprising part. This use of like has spread across the entire English speaking world now. Teenagers in London and Sydney and Toronto, they all use like as a discourse marker. It's no longer just a Valley Girl thing, it's a global youth speech pattern.
So, if I use like that way, will I sound young and natural? Or will I sound like I don't know how to speak?
Great question. The answer is it depends on context. If you're talking to friends in a casual setting, using like sparingly makes you sound natural. If you're in a job interview or giving a presentation, avoid it entirely. And here's a warning for Chinese learners specifically. In Chinese, the filler nagu or jia shez is used in a very similar way to like. But the problem is, Chinese learners sometimes translate nagu directly to that instead of like. So you get sentences like, I was that really tired, which sounds completely unnatural. The correct filler is like, not that.
Interesting. So, what's the third feature of Valley Girl speech?
Vocal fry, have you heard of this?
I think so. It's that creaky voice at the end of sentences, right?
Exactly. Vocal fry is when your vocal cords vibrate slowly and irregularly, creating a low, rough, creaking sound. In Valley Girl speech, it often happens at the end of a sentence. So instead of saying, I don't know, with a clear voice, it comes out as, I don't know, with a creak at the end.
Is that considered good English?
Haha, that's a controversial question. Some people love it, some people hate it, but here's the reality. Vocal fry is very common among young American women, and it's spreading to other groups. Research shows it's used to signal authority and confidence in some contexts, and disinterest in others. For a learner, I'd say understand it, don't force it. You don't need to use vocal fry to sound natural, but you should recognize it when you hear it.
So, let me see if I can put all three together. Oh my God, I was like, so tired. And she was like, totally.
Haha, you've got the uptalk and the like down. Now add a little vocal fry at the very end.
And she was like, totally.
That's honestly quite good for a first try. But let me give you some real-world advice. Here's the part that surprises most people about Valley Girl speech. It is not just for women. The Valley and Valley Girl is a historical label. But the speech patterns uptalk filler like vocal fry are used by people of all genders in California and beyond. So if you're a man learning English and you think Valley Girl speech doesn't apply to you, think again. You will hear these patterns from waiters, from tech workers, from your Uber driver in Los Angeles.
That's a good point. I think I've been dismissing this accent as teenage girl stuff, but it's actually everywhere.
Exactly. And now here's the big picture. Understanding these three accents isn't just about knowing words, it's about cultural intelligence. When you hear a Southern drawl, you know something about that person's community values, hospitality, slowness, connection. When you hear a Boston accent, you know something about that person's proud, tough, working class heritage. When you hear Valley Girl speech, you know something about that person's social context, informality, friendliness, California culture.
So when I hear these accents, I should think about the person, not just the sounds.
Yes, and that brings us to the practice round. I'm going to say a sentence in each of the three accents. I want you to tell me which accent it is and what it means in standard English. Ready?
Ready.
First one, I'ma head on down to the creek and do some fishing.
Southern drawl. It means I'm gonna go to the creek to fish.
Perfect. Second one, that's a wicked good idea. Kaha hopefully now.
Boston accent. That's a very good idea. Carefully now. With the R dropped in carefully. Kaha hopefully.
Nice catch. Third one. So like I was thinking maybe we could like grab coffee and she was like, sure.
Valley girl. Up talk, filler like. And that rising intonation.
You nailed all three. And now here's your challenge for this week. Go to YouTube or Netflix and find content featuring these accents. For the Southern drawl, watch something set in Georgia or Texas. For Boston, watch movies set in Boston. Good Will Hunting is a classic. For Valley Girl, watch a reality show set in California. Listen actively, write down 2 or 3 phrases you hear that sound different from your textbook English. Bring them to our next episode.
I'm going to do that. And I want our listeners to do the same. This was honestly eye-opening. I used to feel frustrated when I didn't understand a native accent. Now I feel like I have a map.
That's exactly the goal. Today's rule: when you hear an unfamiliar accent, don't think they're speaking wrong. Think they're speaking differently. And now you know how. Southern drawl stretches vowels. Boston drops R's. Valley Girl rises and fills with like 3 keys. 3 cultures. 1 big step forward in your English journey.
That's such a powerful shift in mindset. Thanks, Maya. And thanks to all of you for listening. If you found today's episode useful, please subscribe, hit the bell, share it with a friend who struggles with accents, and leave us a comment. What's one accent you've heard that confused you? We'll read your comments and maybe feature them in a future episode.
Love that. Until next time, keep listening, keep learning, and keep speaking like a native.
See you soon.